Welcome to the Journey Success Stories podcast. I'm Jennifer Shuffle, your host, and today I get to welcome George White. He is the CEO with CM Paula Holding Company. Welcome, George.
Thanks for having me.
So, today, of course, we'll be talking about the business, and it's a very interesting concept because it's a holding company that has four different businesses rolled up into it. So, you guys are going to be in for a total treat today. Of course, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel so that then you can not only come back and watch this, because I know George is going to have some really great nuggets in today's podcast, but also we want you to get notified when we have new conversations just like this one drop in the future. So, George, of course, thank you. Welcome to the show. I would love for you to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your background, and of course, who is CM Paula?
So I have a diverse background, even more diverse than the business itself, actually. So I started my career working on Capitol Hill. I spent 5 years working for a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. The last three, I was his chief of staff. It was a great first job. Most people don't realize that people under 30 are running the country because the staffs of people up there are all under 30 because the pay is so low and the work is so long and hard that only people in their 20s, idealists, are willing to do it. That was a great start. You really learn about customer service because if a constituent calls your office, man, that person is right no matter what they say. So it's a great introduction for for customer service, making sure the customer is always listened to and the customer is always right. I then moved from there to into consulting. Worked for a consulting firm for a few years and then founded my own consulting firm, specializing in marketing and product development for tween boys, which I didn't have any kids at the time. If I had, I would have been a real hero. But I was working on comic books and trading cards based on comic books and movies and Disney movies and all that sort of stuff. That was a lot of fun, very entertaining. And then in '97, I got recruited to come to Cincinnati to work for Gibson Greetings. The president was somebody I'd worked for as a consultant, and he called me and told me that he wanted me to be the general manager of his strategic business unit for alternative market greeting cards. And I said, I understand like two of the words you just said, but okay, it sounds like fun. Let's do it. So we moved to Cincinnati. I worked for Gibson. I told my wife it was an incredibly safe job because Gibson was a 150-year-old company, this big corporation. And because we'd moved from North Carolina where we built our own homes, we moved up here. And of course, within 3 years, Gibson was acquired by American Greetings and they shut down the operation here in Cincinnati. So I had to find another job. So I went to work for another great Cincinnati company, long-term U.S. playing card company. Worked there for a couple of years. They've got a lot of great brands sold anywhere in the United States. You go and you can find bicycle playing cards, which was great. I then went out and formed my own company doing webisodes, online greeting cards, things like that. That was a short-lived but very fun venture. And then finally, I went to work for Up With Paper. They recruited me there. The original pop-up greeting card companies, kind of taking the joy and the fun of pop-up books and putting them into greeting cards. And I did that for a year. And I was recruited there, and I was commuting to Connecticut. And within a couple months, I found what dire straits the company was in financially. So I found a company here in Cincinnati, which had no product and a bunch of money, and we had great product and no money. So it was a great match. Sold Up With Paper to CM Paula. CM Paula was a holding company that had just switched from selling their own product, they were a gift company founded by Charles McCullough in the 50s. And for almost 50 years, they had a great gift company. They were making their own product here in Cincinnati. At one point, they employed almost 500 people, making like plaques and coffee mugs and things like that. That said like world's greatest mom, world's greatest dad, greatest teachers, things like that. Sold in retailers that you're too young to remember. I can barely remember: People's Drug and Kresge's and Woolworth and places like that. And what happened was, as there was consolidation of retailers and as people started outsourcing those products to Asia, their business was under serious threat. And so the founder hired a CEO and said, what should I do with my business? I'm concerned. And the guy did a study on it and came back and said, you've had a great career. You've made a lot of money. My advice to you is to close your business, move to Florida, enjoy your retirement. And Charles was a businessman at heart. I mean, he started selling greeting cards out of his trunk when he was 14. Yes, 14. He shouldn't have been driving, but he was. And so he said, no, go away, come back with a different recommendation. So he came back and said, well, what you ought to do is close the company, like I said, but take the money that you've made and start buying other companies, become a holding company. So that's what he did. And they bought a small sports licensing company first, which kind of proved the concept, but also proved that licensing is super hard to do. Upwood Paper was the second acquisition, and that one really worked for them because, like I said, it was a perfect marriage. They took with the money that we got and the support and all the infrastructure from CM Paula, Upwood Paper was able to triple in size within a couple of years. Profitable ever since we were acquired, and then the money that was made from Upwood Paper and kind of the experience enabled us to continue buying other companies. So CM Paula then bought a company called GeoCentral, which sells rocks and crystals in souvenir stores and gift shops around the country. Bought them in 2008. Similarly profitable ever since. Then when the banking crisis hit, we decided we were too much in one area, which was consumer products. So we were concerned we needed to diversify. So went out and bought a company called Art Metals Group, which is an old school metal stamping company, tier two auto supplier. So we stamp out washers, and I got to give Jennifer a tour of that earlier this week, which was
It
a lot
was
of fun.
so much
She
fun.
got to
I'm
see it
forever
working.
grateful.
And then finally in 2016, we bought a company called Ramtech Automation, which develops automated solutions to replace humans for jobs that are dangerous, dirty, and repetitive. You can just think about things that people have to do over and over and over again. We develop programs, take a robot, tell it what to do, how to work, and that replaces so that humans can do jobs that are better and more fulfilling than doing the same thing over and over again. So those are our four holdings that we've had. And about 4 years ago, I became the CEO of CM Paula. So I went from the president of Upwood Paper to general manager of Upwood Paper and GeoCentral, and now I'm the CEO of CM Paula. So I get to oversee all four of those companies. So that's the intersection of my career, my diversified career, and CM Paula's diversified business.
It is so exciting and it's really cool even to go to the plant and to take the tour. So thanks again. But with four different, very diverse companies, yes, the two are a little similar, but still not really. How do you guys keep it all together? And of course, make sure cash flow and profitability and all of these fun things, never mind operationally, things are firing on all cylinders. How do you guys make that happen?
Well, I think the first most important thing we do is we make sure each company is run as its own business unit, and we have two managers of each company. Each one of those has worked there for as the shortest is 7 years, and we've got a couple of those managers that have worked at their companies for over 30 years. And they manage it like it is their business, very entrepreneurial. They are totally incented on the net income from that company, so they run it as if it is their own. By having the infrastructure and support of CM Paul behind them, they can punch above their weight because we can step in and provide the cash infusion if we need to buy a new press for Art Metals Group, or if we need to go in and make all the Christmas purchases for Upwood Paper so they've got enough cars to ship to all their customers, because you got to buy that many months before you get paid by your customers, right? So for a small company, that's a tougher thing to do. So we have processes we put in place that each of the four needs to follow. So we have planning processes, we have budgeting processes, all that sort of thing. But they really are run independently, and it's almost like they're reporting into CM Paula as if we're kind of the board, but we're the board that helps them by providing an infusion of cash or expertise when they need it. So that's kind of 10,000 feet. That's how we manage it.
Right. So to hone in on that 10,000-foot view, you're on the second generation within the family. So it is
Right.
a family run and owned business, which is really cool. But tell me a little bit about that transition and how the kids have really made that work and what does it look like?
So Charles McCullough, the founder, he passed away 8 years ago, and he has three children, and he left the business to the three of them, one third each, so they are equal owners. They none of them live in Cincinnati. They grew up in the business. I mean, like I said, their dad. They joke about it that CM Paul is their other sibling. That he actually had four children, those three, and CM Paul
It's
was his.
also a lot of truth.
So they spent a lot of time there. They knew about it, but they really didn't know the intricacies of the business, and they didn't live here. Um, So they manage it, whereas their dad was coming into work every day almost until he passed away and was very involved in the business. We've had to shift from managing the business with him being in there and knowing day to day to they really are, it is more of a board and we report to them. So we had to set up structures for how we do that. So one of the things we do is every month, 4 weeks after the end of the month, we do a report to the board and each one of the business units, the two leaders of the business unit, give a 20-minute report to the board, which are the three shareholders and myself, and all their information has to fit on one page. And they deliver that to the board of, here's how we did financially, sales versus budget, net income versus budget. Here's some things that happened on the sales side. We lost this customer, we gained this customer, we're trying to sell to this customer. Here's some new product things that we're doing, a new type of washer, a new robotic system, a new type of crystals, packaging, whatever. And here's our personnel news. Here's somebody that we lost. Here's people that we're recruiting. We want to create this new position. So in 20 minutes, they have to do that. And I think it's a great exercise for the shareholders to understand their business. But I also think it's a good exercise for the business leaders they know each month I've got to encapsulate. So I've got to manage my business and know all the parts. And they can be asked any questions during that 20 minutes, and they need to be able to know the answer. So I think it is a good exercise. Again, it probably for a small company, they're having to manage it more like a larger company because they got to report to a board. I mean, when I managed a small business myself, I didn't have a board to report to. I was kind of my own board, right? But I think it does instill in them some professionalism and some structure that they otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah. So this one pager, because I love the fact that there's this executive summary that they are presenting on. And yes, you got to be ready for those rapid fire questions that you're going to get. They can be very broad and deep at times. But tell me more about, are these like KPIs, KAIs, KBIs? Like, what are some of the things that's on this one pager so that then our business owners who are listening can also think about, oh, I really should do an executive summary every month. Like, this is a really cool thing that I should do.
Right. Well, I like you call it a one pager already because that's what we call it too. You fell right into the vernacular that we use. We talk about, okay, your one pager is due on this day, and it's the one page you have to deliver to because
Right.
it's the clear deliverable every month. So I would say at the beginning or where there's the KPI. So it's like, okay, here's what the budget was, here's how we did versus the budget for the month and year to date where we are, percent off, positive or negative, and here's why. So that's kind of the more quantitative is at the beginning because you got to have some goals that you're performing against, right? Otherwise, you're just kind
Right.
of doing whatever. So I do think that's important, and those do include sales, net income, includes operating expenses, it includes things like returns, allowances, all those types of things that you would expect to see. For an art metals group, it would include things like what's our on-time delivery, what is our quality, the quality measurements, how much have we lost due to cost of poor quality? That's an important measurement as well. For Remtech, it's where are we in delivering the systems? Are we delivering our systems on time and the quality of their systems? Are we having to go back and do any work? Have the customers call us back because it's not working? And what's the rate that we're hitting versus what the rate we were supposed to hit? For Up with Paper, it would be sell-through. A lot of our business is seasonal. More than half of our greeting cards sold are seasonal cards. And in the greeting card business, any seasonal card that doesn't sell gets returned to the manufacturer for their money back. That's just the way greeting cards work. So that's a tough business. So there's a lot of pressure on seasonal sales to make sure you get strong sell-through. So we've got seasonal sell-through targets we need to hit with every season. Christmas is usually the biggest. Father's Day, unfortunately, is the slowest because nobody cares about us dads, so we don't sell as many
Stop it.
cards. Yeah, sad. So how did they do on sell-through versus what the goal was? So those are typical of some of the things. And then when you get down into more of the qualitative, which can be discussions about, is our ERP system meeting our goals? When we're looking ahead, the ERP system, and this is again where by virtue of being part of CM Paula, we can have a bigger, better system than say GeoCentral could for themselves, that Up with Paper could for themselves. Qualitative in terms of how is our social media performing for GeoCentral or Up with Paper? How are our website hits, sales, conversions going for a Remtech or an ARC? And then you get down into performance of the staff. How many open positions do we have? How's our recruiting going? How many people came in? How many people applied? How many people signed up for interviews? How many people showed up for the interviews, which is an issue we're having
Oh
now.
my Lord.
Yeah. So we hit a number of things, and each month, your staffing discussions may be this month, but you might not hit that again for 3 months because it's what's top of mind right now. But you better know what your staffing is because if you get asked the question about it, you got to be able to answer it. So
Right. You got to have it in the back pocket. You can't be sitting there twiddling around like, I'll get back to you.
yes, but I think you're right to zero in on that because I was a business leader reporting to the CEO before I became the CEO, and I knew that was my deliverable each month was that one pager, and that's kind of the discipline, and the other big deliverable, of course, is your budget and your plan once a year, which
Right.
that budget planning is in the fourth quarter.
Yes. So, of course, given my background in accounting, budgets and things may sing to my soul just a little bit. How often do you guys reevaluate your budget and maybe do a forecast, or what does that process look like for you guys?
So you're checking your performance against your budget every month. We don't. The budget is the budget. So once the budget is in place for the year, the budget doesn't change. However, we do start forecasting again, and we start reforecasting at the end of the first half. So with the June results, we say, okay, here's where we've done the first half. Here's now how we think we're going to do for the full year. And what we do is when we talk about the June results, it's okay for the full year. This is the range of sales we think we're going to hit. This is the range of net income we're going to hit. And then each of the next 6 months, that range should get smaller and smaller. And you're always within that range, right? So that by January, you're pretty tight where you know you're going to hit. So you're in that range.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people
That is
do adjust the budget. I don't think that's a good process. Once the budget is set, I think that's the budget. So
so we used to always start forecasting at the end of first quarter
yeah,
because there are some things that happen, like maybe tariffs, because we established budgets back in the fall and we used to start that process in like August of the year before.
yeah.
So you're really honing in August through October, and now the holidays are coming on. And so at that point, the budget is kind of already set because now you're doing your end reviews for your employees. And okay, this is going to be what we're going to focus on because it aligns with the strategic plan and all the things. So at the end of the first quarter, we start to kind of reassess, ooh, where are we? What do we now foresee? And then kind of go from there. So tell me, what are some things that you guys are finding within that budget process now that, the first half, unfortunately, is already complete. It's in the bag. And this year is going so fast. But what have been some of the big like pressures that you guys are seeing? And I know you got four different businesses, but what's that big pressure that you guys are seeing in order to make sure, okay, this is what we're going to really hone in on for that second half?
Well, you mentioned the T word, and this year that's clearly the big one, which is tariffs. I mean, tariffs for something. When we were going into this year in our budgets, we put in there that was clearly a risk for all four companies, or a threat. And we knew it was going, and we planned for it in a number of ways, which we can get into more deeply if you want to. But basically, the thought was if tariffs happen, then we're going to need to do this in order to make sure we can continue to hit our net income. It may change our net sales, and we are much more insistent that you hit that net sales or that net income number than that net sales number, right? The net sales, you could lose an account, you can gain an account, but at the end of the day, what you're responsible for delivering as a business unit is you're responsible for delivering that net income number to the business by the end of each year. So the tariffs were the big thing, but we have now adjusted our forecast based on what that's doing to us. But we did not adjust the budget because the budget's the budget. If you want to get more into tariffs, we can talk about that more deeply because obviously I've been heavily involved in that.
Well, a couple things that you had hit on, and I do want to go into. But let's do this. Where do you see the business, yes, the holding company, 5 years from now? You've arrived. What does it kind of look like now?
That's a good question. And one of the things that Charles McCullough, the founder, he was very aggressive in terms of building the business. So, when we obviously buying these very diverse companies, you got to be pretty aggressive. And he would put more of his own money in when he needed to do that. Now, his children, when they took over, they said, we are very happy with the four businesses that we have. We do not envision uh, continuing to make acquisitions at the rate we have. We did make a small acquisition last year, so not to say that I don't make any acquisition, but their primary focus, and therefore my primary focus, has been on making sure that these four businesses maximize their potential to grow. That can include investment. We made a big investment in art. I showed you the big new press that we got there. That was a multi-million-dollar investment. We invested in new lines for GeoCentral and for Upwood Paper. So they're willing to make investments, but we are trying to optimize each of the four companies rather than looking ahead to saying what's the next acquisition going to be. So where I would see them in 5 years is we would like each of them to have organic growth, and to drive. We just expanded our building in Mason 2 years ago to enable Remtech in particular to grow, but really all three companies there to grow. And we expanded the building at Art 4 years ago in order to bring
Right.
this new machine in to grow that business. So we are investing, but that investment now is really targeted more at the four existing businesses that we have, looking internally to drive organic growth rather than buying more companies, that even diversifying the company even further. We don't have plans to do that. So the acquisition we made last year, which was Red Carpet Studios, which was a Loveland-based company, we took their brands and added them to GeoCentral. It was a good match for that. So the GeoCentral people are now managing that. So we bought a fifth company, yes, but we rolled it into GeoCentral, so we still only have four companies. So I would call that a bolt-on acquisition. I can see us making a bolt-on acquisition, but I don't see us buying a whole new company as we did previously.
Another business unit
Yeah,
that needs to be
right.
managed. So this was the piece that I was really wanting to hone in on. With the success and to get each of the four businesses to, of course, go to that next level and to be max productivity and really to just be printing paper, what is the key to success within that?
One of our companies does print paper, separate paper. The key, one of the funny things that I talk about, and people don't realize, to me, the key to success of our companies are twofold. One is creativity, but that creativity is really driven towards meeting the needs of the customer. And that means you got to listen to the customer. And we do that with our creativity and the quality of our products. And it's people can understand, well, yeah, I understand why creative in your greeting cards because they look really cool. And I understand creative in your other consumer products
Yep.
because the packaging for the crystal has to be interesting and everything's got to be interesting and unique for them to pick it up. But Remtech is every automated solution we develop is customized for the specific need of the customer. So
Mhm.
that customer, whether it's a pick pack palletizer or something that is packing dental drill burrs in a pack that the dentist can use, or anything like that, we have to come up with how that's going to work in the most creative ways. Because the robots we get from our partner, which is Fanuc. Fanuc is the largest robot maker in the world. We buy those. They probably wouldn't like this term, but I would call they're dumb robots, right? It's just the robot arm that doesn't do anything until you tell it what to do. So our
Right.
computer programmers and our engineers are coming up with creative ways to how can that robot most efficiently perform that task. And that's not a rote exercise. That is a creative and innovative exercise to make that work. For our metals group, where we are producing millions of washers or parts of
Mhm.
whatever size, and I got to show you some of those when you were at the plant, we have to come up with the most efficient way to do that. And again, that requires creative thinking on the part of our tool makers, our engineer, and our people on the line. Because when our people on the line who are doing this, why is it happening this way? If the parts came out this way, we could process them more efficiently. We need to listen to that. It's creative thinking at all aspects that enables us to meet the needs of the customer. That is what enables us to be successful.
Yeah. So tell me about your people, because to make the things happen, to have that creativity, and to even program the robots, you need some outstanding people. So tell me more about your recruiting process and just your people.
Well, and you're exactly right. I mean, CM Paula is our people, right? Because we are nothing without the people that we have. And we spend a lot of time and effort in not only recruiting people, because that's the first step, and in some ways it's not the most important step. The most important step is onboarding them, getting them to understand our culture, how each of our businesses work, how we work. And what they learn is that we listen to and invest heavily in our people because they make us successful. So we're looking for people that are not there to just go through the motions and do the job. We're looking for people that are looking to do the job and grow in the business. And each one of our leaders of the four businesses now, there are eight of them, came into the company and has grown up into a leadership role. I mean, the guy who's the director of operations at Art, he's a second generation Art employee. He's worked there now for 37 years. I joked that I thought maybe he started that we were violating some child labor laws maybe when he started 7 years ago. But he knows, he knows everything about the business having been there. He started out on the line and he's got the respect and understanding of his coworkers, and the people on the floor know that he will listen to them because at one point he was them, right? And that's true in the other aspects of the other businesses as well. The leaders need to empower their people to not only do the job, but to come to them and say, I have a better way of doing it. And my management credo since I started is people who feel good about themselves produce good results. And that's from the 1 Minute Manager book, which my father gave me when I first became a manager when I was 24 years old. And I still have a copy of it in my office. I really believe in that. And so I want to make sure that our people feel good about themselves. And if they don't feel good about themselves, they're supposed to tell their supervisor, or they come in and tell me, and here's why. And let's see how we can make you feel better about yourself. And the joke I always tell people is if it's the chair in your office, it's bad. Let's get you a new chair. That's the level I want to go down to make sure you're feeling good about yourself.
Yeah. There were times when we would actually leave because there weren't even enough garbage cans in the office. Garbage cans. It's easy. So we
Yeah,
would go down to Target and just buy garbage cans. It didn't matter. Toilet paper, that was a big thing in one of our plants at one point. We went down to Kroger, bought some toilet paper, brought it back. Like, whatever you need.
yeah.
Fine. Just let us know.
Things your associates should not have to worry about.
Right. And as an accountant, I didn't care. Actually, it was welcomed. It was nice because it was something different. So, for goal setting, how far out do you guys set your goals and what does that goal setting process kind of look like for you guys?
So we have two things. The main goal setting process is on the 1 year basis, which is through the budgeting process. And our budgeting process, we started in September. You mentioned August, so we're getting close to that now. And it generally runs September through December. We're usually setting our budget for the next year. It gets locked in December. We do pretty last minute because everybody, including me, when I was complaining about, I want to get more information. I want to get more information. So you wait until the last minute to finalize it, right?
Yes.
So those goals are set, and you've got your quantitative goals, and then you've got your cultural and your qualitative goals, and those are all part of the business plan that is presented by the business leaders to me and the CFO, and that's presented in December. We go back and forth. Once we lock that in, then at our annual meeting, which is in March, reviewing all the previous year's results, once those are totally finalized, they are presenting to the shareholders, and that's an hour. I think we take an hour for each. They're presenting what their business plan is for the year. And then once a year, we also do a 3 to 5 year look ahead
Nice.
to look ahead what our goals are. And again, those are quantitative goals, which are, what's our sales going to be? How are we going to get there? As well as qualitative goals. And then as you go to the next year, okay, here's our new 3 to 5 year plan. What got changed, and here's why it got changed. And your 1 year budget should be consistent with that 3 to 5 year plan. So that's kind of how we go about it.
Yeah. Excellent. So, given where you guys are in that journey, are you in the 3 or the 5, or where are you within that strategic plan right now?
3 to 5 years. So we did our last 3 to 5 year usually we do that in like April or May. So we don't do it at the annual meeting. We do it in one of the shareholder calls following that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that,
So
interestingly, that 3 to 5 year meeting goals, those are on the same one page. You got to fit that also on a one page.
I love the consistency because that's what makes it a success is because you have a standard.
Yeah.
You know what you have to do, you're held accountable, you report on it. Yes, that annual meeting might be a little bit more in depth because it's an hour long instead of 20 minutes, but still, you know what you got to deliver. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
the annual meeting is the one time a year you do get to elaborate a bit. We let them do a PowerPoint presentation. It's not limited to one page, and then sometimes those PowerPoint pages or presentations are much longer. It lets them give some background, which the shareholders appreciate as well. But yeah, other than that, it's like you got one page, and don't change the font. I see you reducing that font. Font's got to be legible for all of us to read. So yeah.
What about the margins? I can make those
You can
smaller.
go a little bit wider, but again, it's because the meetings are like this. The meetings are on Zoom or Teams or whatever. So it's the one pagers put up on the screen. So it's got to be legible.
I'm going to use a 6-point font. Anyway, so if there was one part of the business where you could take a little bit of magic dust and sprinkle it on, what would it be?
Well, I think anybody who doesn't say they want more sales for their business, a magic way to get more sales would be lying because more sales solves all problems, right? I mean, so
Not
if
entirely,
if
but
I if I had magic dust, man, I'd get more sales. If if you give me $1 million more in sales for each of my four companies, there's a lot of things that I could do with that, right? Um, so yeah, it's that would be the magic dust I would like to be is that we wouldn't have to wait so long for the responses on the great quotes we're giving out for a new robotic system. Why is this taking so long to go through the customer system? Well, just because they've got their way of dealing with things, right? So I'm going to use my magic dust on making sales go up.
nice. So what kind of growth are you guys projecting year over year right now?
So 24 was a challenging year. Automation has been tough since the interest rates went up. Automation has really been in a recession for the last couple of years, which has been tough. Um, the consumer products was also retail sales were also kind of soft last year. So we did have it ended up being a successful year for us, but it was not a boom year like we were hoping for. So we're anticipating like 10% growth in 25 versus 24 and higher than that on the bottom. So 10% on the top line and more than that on the bottom line. Um, and the tariffs are putting a lot of pressure on the top line and the bottom line. But we are not going off of our bottom line budget, what we had for each of the four companies to hit that. And I feel like we're in August now. Through 7 months, we're ahead of plan, which is great considering all the uncertainty in all the
Yes.
markets that we deal in and the tariffs. I'm very pleased with where we are right now. There's obviously a lot of challenges in the market. The tariff things are creating a lot of uncertainty, which puts pressure on all four of our businesses in different ways. But we are managing our way through that, and we're looking forward to more stable times ahead. But there's always uncertainties in business, right?
Great.
This has been a more challenging year, I think, than most. But 5 years ago we were in COVID, right? There was a lot of challenges in that.
Right. Absolutely. But the really cool thing that you talked about earlier is that risk mitigation. How are you evaluating your risk, being honest about it, so that then, yes, you know what the threat may be, but how do you turn it into an opportunity so that then, if push comes to shove, we already have a plan in place?
Right.
It may not be the best plan at the time, but then, okay, how do you ebb and flow in order to make sure we're still delivering and really firing on all cylinders?
Yeah, I think the best example of that I would say would be for our consumer products company. You mentioned earlier there's a little bit of similarity. There are a little bit of similarity between Upwood Paper and GeoCentral. They are both consumer products companies. They do both sell at retail. Obviously, the types of products are extremely different. There are a lot of differences. But when we got into last year, going into the fourth quarter, we were looking at what the year ahead was going to look like, and we thought, tariffs are going to be an issue. So we need to figure out how we're going to address that. So the first decision we made is we want to be in business, right? And some people, when the tariffs went up, they decided not to order products. So we made that decision last year. We're not going to do that. We're going to be in business. So the first thing is we evaluate all of our everyday products for both of those businesses, and we ordered a year's supply for all of those. And that arrived in January before the tariffs could possibly go up. So that gave us some cushion, right? So we had enough product to last all of 25, regardless of what happened. Then when the tariffs started, we got back together again and said, okay, what do we need to do based on what tariffs are today to ensure we're in business? And it's a bigger issue for up with paper because they're seasonal. Christmas
Yes.
goods in particular, but also all
Right.
the other seasons. We had to evaluate when goods were going to coming in. We had to order Mother's Day. Um, Mother's Day was when the tariffs were first, and you may not remember, tariffs went up to 145% on goods from China very briefly.
They
And
did.
we just decided to press forward with that because if we don't have Mother's Day cards, all of our companies that need Mother's Day cards are not going to have them from us. So therefore they'll get them from elsewhere. And once you lose them, you've probably lost them forever. So we decided to just keep ordering product, basing our orders and our pricing on what the tariffs were at that point. A lot of our competitors were worried about what tariffs might be and just decided not to order product. I think that, to your question earlier, that is now an opportunity for us, particularly in the second half of this year. There's going to be a lot less product in the market, and this helps GeoCentral as well, because a lot of these companies just didn't order. I mean, all you got to do is look at freight coming in from, freight is down, imports are down almost a third coming through Long Beach. So that's been nice because it's made import or freight rates go down a lot, which helps offset tariffs a little bit. But what it means is there's going to be a lot less competition for us in particularly around Christmas time, which is the biggest buying season. So we are hoping that by making the decision, we're going to be in business, which sounds silly, I know, but a lot of companies did not make that decision. They
Right.
and this falls back to what's the benefit of CM Paula. If I'm a small company that my company is only the greeting card business, it would have probably been it would have been a more difficult decision. But knowing I had CM Paula as a backup to provide additional money if we needed it gave me more confidence to agree with the business leaders to say, yes, this is a decision we're going to make. We're going to bring in product. So that has given us optimism for where we're going. Now, tariff can change at any time, but based on what we know today, what the tariff rates are today, we feel good about the rest of the year.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So I have some very quick rapid fire questions. Are you
I'll try to
ready?
answer as rapidly as I can.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So, what is the key to success for you?
For me personally, or for our business.
For you personally.
For me personally, I think it's listening to people and letting them work, letting them do what they do best.
Well said. Yes. All right. What is your one piece of advice for business owners?
Hire good people and listen to them.
That's true. There's so many times we just don't even listen.
That's right.
All right.
You
So,
want
what
hire
is
people
a
that
book?
are hire people that are smarter than you and better than you, and then listen to them. You hired them
Right.
for a reason, which was to do work, right? Why not listen to them? Sorry, that took more
Right.
time. Go ahead.
You're good. You're good. All right. What is a book or podcast that you're reading or listening to right now?
I just finished a book called The Strategist, which is a really interesting biography book that looks at Churchill, Stalin, Roosevelt, Mussolini, Hitler, uh, World War II, and the lessons they took from their formative years, which was the early 1900s through World War One, and how they applied that or misapplied that to World War II. It was very, very interesting. It was a long book, but I read it very quickly and I recommend it.
Awesome. All right. So, of course, before we get to the last question of the day, wah, wah, wah. How can people get in touch with you? How can we help you to really thrive and go to a whole nother level?
So CM Paula is cmpaula.com is our website. And all the companies have websites that link off that. So that's the place to go to start. You can buy our consumer products around town and around the country and around the world. If you go to the airport in Tokyo, you can buy our pop-up greeting cards there. But here locally, you can go to Jungle Gyms or the Fresh Market or Barnes and Noble, Natorps, Pipkins, all kinds of places like that. You can buy our consumer products. That obviously helps. Uh, I encourage, because labor is such a concern, encourage people to take a look. If they've got a process that is large volume and is repetitive, dangerous, dirty for their employees, look at automation. And we can come in and do an automation audit. Other companies can do that. It's well worth it to do that. For our, we're a tier two auto supplier, so your car, if you've got a jack in your car, we probably made the washer that's in the jack of your car, so that if you ever have to use your auto jack, which I hope you don't have to, that's probably we help facilitate that works.
Well, and I can honestly say, with the audit that you guys do, you're really going to look at, well, what is that payback? Does it make sense? Because even within art, there's some automation you could do, but does it make sense to do?
Right. Everybody always asks, well, you've got this great automation company. Why don't you automate the pick pack of your greeting cards or automate some of what art? In order for automation to work, you have to have the same process repeated a very large amount of times. And all of our greeting cards and our crystals, they're all different. Automation absolutely doesn't work for that. And for art, we have done one good automation project then, but a lot of the automation that's done at art is actually done by our people at art who say, like I said, the parts are coming out this way. If we made them come out this way or go in this kind of box, all those little changes turn out to be huge changes over the course of a day, a week, a month, a year. So that's the kind of automation we do. But Remtech does, yeah, real automation when you're producing millions or something, the same motion over and over and over again. That's what we're good at.
Absolutely. All right, so our last question of the day is, what is most inspiring to you today?
Most inspiring to me is our people and how creative they are at solving problems. And again, we've talked about the myriad of problems that they can provide, but I'm constantly inspired by our people coming to work and the creativity and the ingenuity, innovation that they put into work every day. It's very inspiring to see every day.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so cool to see them too and to meet some of them. And they
Yeah,
are so happy. So kudos to you guys for
thank
that
you.
too. Well, this was a great conversation. I really enjoyed hearing your background and your stories. So thank you so much for sharing with us today.
I appreciate you having me. It was fun. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. So, of course, I encourage all of you who are watching, save the show, come back, watch it again and again and again, because George really had some really great tidbits that we should all use in our businesses. And of course, like and subscribe so you can get notifications in the future when we have more conversations drop just like this one. Again, thanks to everyone who joined us today. We really appreciate you. And of course, George, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Appreciate
Greatly
it.
appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Have
Absolutely.
a good one.
Well, thank you.
All right, take care.